Welcome to the Deep Dive podcast channel. Have you ever felt, I don't know, a strange pull to create distance in relationships, even when deep down a part of you really craves connection?
It's a common experience, that paradox.
Yeah, it really is. Well, today we're going to explore this intricate world of avoidant attachment. And we want to look at it not as like intentional coldness.
Right. Not as a deliberate choice to push people away.
Exactly. But more as a really clever, though maybe sometimes unhelpful way we learn to protect ourselves based on things that happened earlier in life.
And understanding this can be incredibly insightful.
Definitely. If you've ever puzzled over your own relationship patterns or maybe those of someone close to you, this might shed some light.
That's a really vital starting point, I think. The term avoidant itself can sound quite negative, can it?
It really can. Like it implies someone just doesn't care.
Exactly. Aloof, uncaring. But when we look through the lens of early life experiences, a much more complex and compassionate picture starts to form. Our attachment styles, these fundamental ways we connect or maybe disconnect from others, they really start taking shape in infancy, in early childhood.
Shaped by how our caregivers respond to us, our needs.
Precisely. It's about the consistency, the attunement, or sometimes the lack thereof in those really early formative interactions.
Okay, so let's dive into that. If we're talking about avoidant attachment specifically, what kind of early interactions might nudge a child down that path? What are they learning implicitly?
Well, imagine a young child.
Yeah.
Right? They reach out, maybe for comfort, maybe expressing a need, frustration, sadness.
Yeah.
And perhaps that reaching out is met with, well, maybe indifference, or maybe even a subtle message that their feelings are just too much, inconvenient.
Ooh.
Or maybe independence is the thing that gets praised. Oh, you're such a big girl, boy, doing it all by yourself. While those moments of needing help, of being vulnerable, are maybe dismissed or even subtly criticized.
So the child isn't learning not to need connection.
No, the need is still there inherently, but they're learning through repeated experiences that relying on others for that kind of emotional support isn't reliable. Maybe it's even unsafe.
It's like they're forced into a kind of premature self-reliance, learning to self-soothe out of necessity, maybe before they're really developmentally ready for it.
That's a great way to put it. And over time, that pattern solidifies. Prioritizing distance becomes the safest strategy they know.
So it's not always about big, obvious traumas.
Not necessarily. The concept of developmental trauma, or perhaps better put, difficult developmental experiences, is useful here. It's often the more subtle, chronic stuff.
Like what?
Like emotional neglect. A parent might be physically there, but just consistently unavailable emotionally. Missing cues, not really seeing the child's inner world.
Okay.
Or maybe inconsistency. Sometimes needs are met with warmth, other times with irritation or withdrawal. That unpredictability makes closeness feel risky.
So even parents who are, trying their best but maybe dealing with their own stuff, their struggles could inadvertently teach this pattern.
Absolutely. Think about high expectations without warmth, or that constant invalidation of feelings. The don't cry, it's not a big deal, you're fine messages, when the child clearly isn't fine.
Right. Those messages land hard, even if they're well-intentioned sometimes.
They teach the child that their inner world isn't valid or it's not safe to share. And that's when those internal walls start going up. Avoidance, in this light, it's really a survival strategy. It's protection.
That makes so much sense. And actually, if this is resonating with you listening or if questions are popping up, we'd genuinely love to hear from you in the comments below.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you're finding this useful, please do consider subscribing to stay updated on our deep dives.
Please do.
Okay, so we've talked about the early experiences, but you also mentioned something about the body's response, the nervous system, dorsal vagal shutdown. How does that fit in?
Right. Our nervous system is like this constant surveillance system, always scanning our environment and our relationships for cues of safety or danger.
Okay.
For someone with an avoidant attachment pattern, their nervous system has often learned deep down that emotional closeness itself can be a danger signal. Because of those past experiences where closeness was perhaps linked to unmet needs, invalidation, or feeling overwhelmed.
So closeness triggers a kind of alarm.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
And when that happens, the nervous system can initiate a protective response. Polyvagal theory, which is a model for understanding the nervous system, talks about this state called dorsal vagal shutdown.
Dorsal vagal shutdown sounds intense. What does that feel like? What does it look like?
Think of it as the body's emergency brake when things feel too overwhelming or inescapable. It's a very primitive survival response. It can manifest as feeling numb, foggy, disconnected. a strong urge to withdraw physically and emotionally, low energy.
So someone might look calm on the outside.
Exactly. They might appear completely detached, maybe even speak in a monotone, but internally, they could be feeling profoundly shut down, almost like they're fading out.
Wow.
And the crucial thing to grasp here is that this isn't a conscious choice. It's not manipulation like, I'm going to shut you out. It's an automatic physiological response.
Mm-hmm.
The body is trying to protect itself because closeness has become associated on a nervous system level with threat.
Self-preservation, not deliberate distance.
Precisely. That distinction is so important.
Okay, so these deep-rooted patterns, these nervous system responses, they really shape how avoidant attachment shows up in adult relationships, right? What are some common things we might see?
Yeah, absolutely. You often see individuals who start to feel uncomfortable, maybe even panicky, when intimacy deepens. Emotional closeness feels threatening, so they pull back,
Right.
create space. Well, it could be through needing a lot of alone time, focusing heavily on work or hobbies, maybe finding fault with their partner, or just becoming less communicative. Expressing their own feelings or even just identifying them can be really hard.
So they might struggle to say, I feel sad or I need support.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And they might also feel easily overwhelmed or like suffocated by a partner's emotional needs or bids for connection. Vulnerability, their own or someone else's, feels incredibly uncomfortable.
How might they react to a partner's vulnerability?
Sometimes with criticism, maybe sarcasm, or just shutting down the conversation, withdrawing. There can also be discomfort with physical closeness sometimes, like sustained eye contact or cuddling might feel intense.
It really sounds like it creates major roadblocks to building that secure, deeply connected partnership that most people long for.
It absolutely can. It makes
Mhm.
genuine intimacy very challenging.
What's going on inside, though, beneath that surface of self-sufficiency or distance? What's the internal world like?
It's often quite different from the external presentation. There's frequently a hidden layer of shame, deep-seated beliefs like there's something fundamentally wrong with me or I'm not good enough. Maybe a fear that if they really let someone in, they'll inevitably be hurt, controlled, or found lacking. Emotions themselves might be viewed as weakness, something messy or dangerous to be suppressed.
So this idea of I'm better off alone isn't necessarily a genuine preference.
Often, it's more of a protective stance born from fear. Underneath it all, there's usually still that core human longing for connection. But it's tangled up with intense fear and, frankly, often a lack of knowing how to connect safely, how to trust it.
That sounds like a really painful internal conflict. Wanting closeness, but being terrified of it.
Exactly. It's a constant push-pull.
Mhm.
Lean in, feel scared, pull back, repeat. It's exhausting.
Yeah, I can imagine. And while pulling back might feel safer in the moment, what are the costs? What are the long-term consequences of relying so heavily on this kind of emotional self-protection?
Well, the very strategy designed to prevent pain often ends up creating a different kind of pain. While it shields, it also isolates. It can lead to profound emotional loneliness, even within a relationship.
So feeling alone even when you're with someone.
Yes. Building truly secure, fulfilling bonds becomes incredibly difficult. There's often a real struggle to voice needs, which just breeds resentment and ensures those needs continue to go unmet.
There's just cycle.
Totally. And by walling off the difficult emotions, the fear, the sadness, the vulnerability, they inadvertently numb themselves to the positive ones too. Joy, deep intimacy, the ability to truly receive love and support.
So the armor gets heavy.
Incredibly heavy.
Wow.
We might see chronic low-level numbness, maybe
Wow.
anxiety simmering beneath that calm exterior, burnout from hyperindependence, always having to do everything alone, and real difficulty letting care in. It keeps you safe, maybe, but at a significant cost to aliveness and connection.
That paints such a clear and quite poignant picture, someone really battling internally, even if they look like they have it all together.
Often, yes.
So if someone listening recognizes these patterns, either in themselves or maybe in a partner, where does healing even begin? What are some first steps?
A really important starting place is developing what we call somatic awareness,
Yeah.
learning to gently tune into the body.
Somatic awareness, meaning paying attention to physical sensations.
Exactly, because these patterns, these traumas, these ways of relating, they aren't just stored in our thoughts or memories. They live in our bodies, in our nervous system responses. So healing often involves reconnecting with the body's wisdom.
How does someone do that, especially if they're used to being quite disconnected?
Gently. That's the key word, gentle practices. Things like body scans, just noticing sensations in different parts of the body without judging them or needing to change them.
Okay.
Gentle movement can be huge, like simple stretching, yoga, even just swaying softly, anything that helps you feel more present in your physical self in a safe way.
Like re-inhabiting the body.
Beautifully put.
Ah.
Breath work, too.
Yeah.
Just noticing the breath or simple exercises to calm the nervous system. Even the simple act of placing a hand on your heart or belly can be surprisingly grounding.
The goal isn't to force feeling then.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
It's about creating safety first, and then gently, curiously noticing what's there, building tolerance for sensation, both physical and emotional, bit by bit.
That focus on gentleness feels crucial. And I imagine therapy plays a big role too.
Oh, absolutely. Because these patterns were formed in relationship, they often heal most effectively through relationship. And therapy offers a unique relational container for that.
How so?
A good trauma-informed therapist can essentially offer a corrective relational experience. They model secure attachment, they provide safety, consistency, attunement.
Like a secure base.
Exactly. They can help you find language for feelings you never had words for. Offer co-regulation, that feeling of calming down with someone, feeling safe in their presence, and gently help you explore those early wounds without getting overwhelmed.
So therapy is like a practice ground for learning to connect differently.
That's a perfect way to think about it.
Hmm.
A safe space to practice being seen, staying present when it feels a bit vulnerable, and gradually softening those protective walls at your own pace.
That sounds incredibly valuable. What about individually? Is there a key mindset shift that helps?
Self-compassion, it's non-negotiable, really. So often, people with avoidant patterns carry this deep belief that they're flawed, that they need to be fixed before they're worthy of love.
Yeah, that shame piece you mentioned earlier.
Right, and self-compassion is the antidote.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with acknowledging the reality. Okay, I've been protecting myself. This pattern served a purpose given my history.
Instead of judging it.
Yes, affirming. My distance isn't a character flaw. It was a survival strategy. And then maybe a gentle invitation. I wonder what it might feel like to just stay with this discomfort for one more breath. It's about meeting yourself with kindness, not criticism.
That's powerful, starting with acceptance. So, okay, self-compassion is key. Somatic awareness helps. Therapy provides support. What about actually doing connection differently in everyday life? How can someone start to lean in without getting totally flooded?
Small steps. Always small, manageable steps.
Yeah.
Healing isn't about diving headfirst into vulnerability if that feels terrifying. It might look like, say, consciously naming one feeling you notice during the day, even just to yourself in a journal. Or, in a conversation that feels a bit emotionally intense, maybe try staying present for just 30 seconds longer than you normally would before withdrawing.
Tiny steps.
Tiny, achievable steps. Maybe reaching out with a quick text to someone you trust when the urge to isolate feels really strong. Or simply taking a moment after a positive connection to notice how it felt in your body. What felt okay? What felt tricky?
Building evidence that connection can be okay.
Exactly. It's about slowly, gradually building trust in yourself within connection, proving to your nervous system, bit by bit, that closeness doesn't have to equal danger.
That feels really hopeful and achievable. Phew. We've covered a lot of ground. Before we kind of wrap things up, are there any common questions people often ask about avoidant attachment that we could touch on, like FAQs?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea.
Okay, first one, is it permanent? Like, if you have avoidant attachment, are you stuck with it forever?
Good question. And the answer is definitely no. Attachment styles are learned patterns, and they can shift and evolve throughout life with awareness, effort, and often supportive relationships or therapy. We call this earning secure attachment.
Okay, that's really encouraging. Next. Why do people with avoidant patterns sometimes just completely shut down during emotional conversations?
As we talked about, that's often that dorsal vagal nervous system response kicking in. Closeness has been paired with danger in the past, so the body goes into protective shutdown mode. It's physiological, not usually a conscious, I'm ignoring you.
Right, the self-preservation thing. Can someone be both avoidant and anxious? It sounds contradictory.
It does, but yes, absolutely. This is often called fearful avoidant or disorganized attachment. It's like having one foot on the gas, longing for connection, the anxious part, and one foot on the brake, terrified of closeness, the avoidant part. It's a very confusing and often painful place to be.
Okay. What about someone who's been shut down for years? How do they even start feeling emotions again?
Very gently. Starting small with those somatic tools, noticing body sensations, maybe breath work. Trauma-informed therapy is often key here, creating safety to slowly thaw out those frozen feelings. It takes time, and patience.
Makes sense. What if someone just genuinely prefers being alone? Is that automatically avoidance?
Not necessarily. It's important to distinguish between healthy, intentional solitude, choosing alone time for restoration or enjoyment, and a fear-based disconnection or inability to tolerate closeness. Exploring the why behind the preference is key. Is it choice or is it defense?
Good distinction. And lastly, the big one. Can people with avoidant attachment have healthy, happy relationships?
Yes, absolutely yes. It requires insight, self-awareness, a willingness to understand their patterns, communicate them as best they can, and a commitment to growth, both individually and potentially with a partner. But meaningful, secure connections are definitely possible.
That's a really hopeful note to end the FAQs on. Thank you. So just to kind of bring our deep dive together today, we've really looked at how avoidant attachment isn't about being cold or uncaring.
Right. It's so often a deeply ingrained protective response, learned way back, often in childhood, as a way to cope with experiences where emotional needs weren't met safely or consistently.
And understanding that, seeing it through that more compassionate lens can really change how we view ourselves or how we view others who might show these patterns.
Exactly. Recognizing the survival strategy beneath the surface behavior.
Hmm.
It's not about excusing potentially hurtful actions, but about understanding the roots.
Before we go, maybe just a final thought for you, our listeners, to carry with you. What small step of self-compassion or perhaps gentle reconnection, either with yourself or someone else, might feel possible for you today?
A lovely invitation.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into understanding avoidant attachment. We hope it's been insightful.
Remember, exploring these ideas further, maybe seeking professional support if this resonates deeply, are really valuable steps towards greater self-understanding and growth. You don't have to figure this all out alone.
Well said. Thanks again for listening.